Alderman Bob Fioretti running for mayor, trying to knock off Rahm Emanuel. I believe you were the first in, weren't you, Alderman?
Yes, I was. I had to think about it for a moment now that everybody else is jumping into to the ring here.
And that's after he locked you in the stairwell and didn't allow you to participate in that photo op a number of years ago.
Right.
Which I think is just a hilarious...
And a school that I made sure that I
Yeah.
helped build and was there, in a quality school that offers a quality education. And it's generally in the top 100 high schools in the country.
Like something out of All the King's Men or The Last Hurrah.
Right.
Okay, so the mayor, because of a law that allowed unlimited spending, if in fact one candidate pledged $100,000 plus of his or her own money, now that candidate has withdrawn from the race. But that opened up the floodgates. How do you battle 20, 25, 30 million in the bank for the mayor?
Well, it's just what I've been doing all along. Talking to the people, listening to them, knocking on doors, going to every community and every community forum. I wish the mayor would join us much more often at community forums. I think if he listened to what the people say, I think he'd have a different perspective.
As a long-term attorney, and you've litigated your share of civil rights cases, that was an area of expertise for you. If in fact we had a police situation similar to Ferguson or similar to Staten Island and New York, and the grand jury came back and did not indict the police officer who was involved, and I'm talking in general here, so I want to be fair about this. Do you think it's fair to come back on a federal level? If you were mayor, would you encourage the AG or whomever to come back on a federal level and take another bite at the apple to question the cop involved in the incident with a civil rights inquiry?
Well, I think the real issue is no matter where we go, we have an inability between our communities sometimes to understand who and what the role of the police are. I think in our city, though, we have overworked, understaffed police officers who really can't relate in a sense to our community. They can't get involved because they're reactive, not proactive. They don't know the people on the beat. They don't know the folks in the restaurants. They haven't seen the regular people because everything is moving. It's a moving a shell game here in this city. And I think you need to build up trust from our community, from our police. I mean, when I grew up, we were always looking at officer friendly. We don't have that anymore. We don't have the guy walking down the street. I was glad that they've taken my ideas and increased the bicycle patrols, but we need it in all the communities. At the same time, we need to have beat controls. I'm always a little concerned when I see a car a far away out of their district getting coffee elsewhere and not in the district that they are assigned to.
But, yes, we want the cops to liaison with the community. We want them to be trusted in the community. But if, in fact, there's protests going on for one reason or another, take ethnicity and race and neighborhood out of it, at some point the mayor of the city, especially of this side, has to tell the police, the superintendent, the chief, what have you, the rank and file, all right, clear the streets and throw them in jail. I mean, do you have the ability to be that kind of law and order mayor?
Well, I think when we take hypotheticals, I think they're dangerous to deal with. I think under my administration, we're going to be building up trust between the police officers and the community. The community will be involved. One thing that I always did, I had 7 districts under the old 2nd Ward that were affected. And I made sure I would go to the CAPS meetings and see nobody there. And then I would say, what's going on? I then call up the churches, I call up the local businesses, my staff, and get them out there and get involved.
If you're elected mayor, and we're talking here with Bob Fioretti, the alderman, Gary McCarthy, stay or go?
Nah, he's gone.
Why?
I think we need to have a new approach towards policing here in this city. Obviously, I've had differences and disagreements over staffing numbers with the commander, with the superintendent, and I think the time is to look at a fresh new start here. I think he's willing to go too under any administration if it's not Rahm Emanuel.
Talking here with Alderman Bob Fioretti, I know that you've come out in the past, $15 minimum wage effective for companies. What's the threshold?
Over $50 million in revenue.
Explain to me how that begins to fill the gap in revenue if, in fact, you have companies then just moving to the collar counties out of the city.
No, it's not in terms of filling a gap in revenue. It's really lifting up our citizens who can then have time. Under the $13 an hour proposal today, it doesn't really take effect until 2019. You're only pennies above poverty. I've spoken to way too many individuals who, especially women who have 1 or 2 children, who are working 2 jobs, 2 minimum wage jobs at this point.
Well, why not 25 then as opposed to 15? I don't understand the thought process of a minimum wage if, in fact, it drives jobs, especially out of depressed neighborhoods, away.
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know where the statistics come from on that. Let's take a look at Walmart. $4 billion in profits. Yum Candies, $1 billion in profits. McDonald's, $1 billion in profits. When we look at what, and with no health care, where do we go? Who pays for that then when somebody gets sick? We do.
And I understand that.
Yeah, see, and so we need, and when I voted for the $13 proposal, my last statement was, and I turned around and I looked at the mayor's floor leader and head of workforce development, who only had 1 real hearing on it in the city council, which I thought was not enough. Because you only hear a few things and you don't hear from the small businesses. And I've had 14 meetings with small businesses since we passed that to see what we can do to help them, and I've got more scheduled in the next couple of weeks. I looked at him and I said, our real work has to start now, because we have to protect small businesses that are marginal. We need to do what we can for small businesses, because some of them have very difficult times ahead. This recession, we are all victims of the recession here. In Chicago, especially with all the foreclosures and what we see in our neighborhoods, we need to do better. We have to help small businesses, period.
Alderman, thank you much for your time this morning, coming in. Much appreciated, sir. Good luck at the Tribune editorial board later today.
And it'll be fun.
Where can our listeners go if they want to learn more about your candidacy?
BobFioretti.com. That's FIORETTI, BobFioretti.com, and they can see what we stand for, what we're at, and they can volunteer too.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Bob Fioretti here, 89 WLS, Chicago's